everybody, time to do something I have not been able to do for months, and the comments have piled up, and the questions have come in over the last couple months. I know I've been busy on the road, the epic Great Lakes Tour 2019, as well as things that are going on here at the Rancho, but it is officially time for part one of the mail call, and I was finally able to gather together not every question, because there's literally thousands and thousands of comments and hundreds of questions that come in on a monthly basis. So let's go into part one of the mail call. Now, the first question is, do you ever think being too thin-skinned can be a negative? And that's a really good question. You know, sometimes Rosie gets tagged as being a little bit too hard-shelled, and things bounce off of me, having a rhino skin. Some people say, Rosie, you're too insensitive to what goes on around you, and have this kind of, well, if it happened to me and it happens to you, it's survivable for you, so just deal with it and get on. Well, you know, it's something that served me well over time. I've been on YouTube a long time now, and I've seen a lot of people come and go that didn't stick around the YouTube platform for one reason or the other. And from my observation over the years, one of the big factors is people let things get to them in a negative way. And YouTube, instead of your life and having YouTube as part of your life, YouTube becomes the focus of your mind, and you can be very sensitive to the point that YouTube controls your life. Instead of having your life with YouTube in it, YouTube is your life. Now, I know I do a lot of content. I upload a lot of videos. I do a lot of live streams, but I do other things too. And I've really moderated my video output accordingly. As I get older, I don't have the energy that I used to have. Yeah, right, Rosie. But I have always had this feeling of, you know, everybody has to take care of their own knitting on YouTube. And I've also seen the way that things change over time. Sometimes, sad to say, today's friends become tomorrow's frenemies, and sometimes even enemies. And it's a very disconcerting thing. And people that you thought that you would never be friendly with come along and become friends of yours. So the takeaway from that is things change. So yes, I never let myself get too wrapped up in opinions and what people think. Does that mean that I'm thin-skinned and that has a negative side? For me, it means that I'm able to live with the realities of YouTube. Number two, this is something I heard a lot. Your pal, IRC Bully, could have been arrested for what he did in Milwaukee. Do you feel like you were lucky? Well, you know, it was a very disconcerting experience when we pulled into our destination in Milwaukee, and unfortunately I had chosen a less than savory neighborhood as our exit point to get off of the freeway. And, you know, it was a rough area, let's just face it. And a guy comes over with a bandana. I'm surprised. I'm looking forward. I'm not even looking out of my window. All of a sudden, I have a sense that somebody's leaning down on my side of my driver's side window, and he has a bandana on and glasses. I've never seen the guy before. Okay, and he starts to talk in a low voice. How you doing? You know, what's going on and all that. And I really, honest to goodness, thought that this individual who I never met before was going to tell me to move over into the passenger seat and tell me we're going to take a little ride. You know, there was a great sense of relief when he finally said a few things that made me realize that it was YouTube. But I don't know. I mean, it's I'm pretty hard person to rattle and to really freak out, and I think I kept my cool very well, but I don't think it's a stunt that I would ever pull on anybody else. But he turned out to be a really nice guy and a friend of mine. Why don't you install an AC unit on your van? For over 40 days, you never had air conditioning. Well, I chose the van life, and I chose my van because of the stealth aspects of it. To mount up a window or a rooftop air conditioner on the van would be betraying the stealth that I have in the van. Yeah, it might buy me some comfort for a few days, but being as I was raised on the East Coast in a place with very hot summers and very humid summers, it wasn't that difficult for me to endure, especially when I was able to have the use of a fan. But I'm not willing to give up the stealth that I have by putting some kind of equipment on the outside. It's going to betray the fact that somebody could be living in this van. Why don't you buy a camper van? I've heard that a lot, right? Little Rascal's cool, but why don't you buy a camper van? Well, why do you think? Do-re mi, do-re mi. It costs money to buy anything that's a decent I'd say $15,000 to $20,000. Quite frankly, I don't have that money to spend. I make do. For me, the van is simply a place to sleep, and a little more than that. I do all of my hygiene needs outside of the van. There's always facilities that I can use. Once in a while I will cook a meal. I'm going to be carrying equipment to do that. And I don't feel like I'm deprived of anything. As I've said, the number one thing is, can I sleep comfortably in a vehicle? And if I can, that's 80% of the battle for me. And I designed that van with multiple layered gym mats, on a wooden platform that I built. You can see it on the channel back in July of 2017. Plenty of foam cushioning, mattresses, yoga mats. It's a really nice sleeping experience to be in there. Okay, wake up refreshed, the Rosie way. Okay. Why don't you do panel hangouts anymore? I've heard this a lot. Couple reasons. Number one, I did them for a long time, and years and years and hundreds of well, maybe not hundreds, at least 100 panel, more than 100 hangouts, probably hundreds of them over the years, and they're quite a commitment. 6 to 8 hours on a Saturday night, and before I was doing a Saturday and Wednesday. I just thought it was time to freshen up and have somebody else take the reins and take over for a while, and it all worked out pretty good. Number two, let's face it, towards the end of my hangout experience, it almost became, well, some people called it the Rosie Springer show. They just ended up being people getting booted off panels and drinking and slobbering and cussing, and it stopped being fun. The other thing about the panels is that when you bring enough people together on a daily and weekly basis, same old people, and I don't say that the people were bad people, but I'm saying when you bring the same people together, inevitably, I don't care how well you get along, somebody's going to say something and something's going to trigger, and they usually end up blowing apart. Panels seem to have a certain lifespan to them, and then they kind of degrade and people go their own ways. Okay, and that's the reality of that too. So I preferred to go do my own thing. Thought I had enough people that could come on and watch me as kind of a solo act, and my decision in January of this year was borne out by the fact that my numbers have been great. I'm not a person that talks about numbers a lot. The subs have been coming in, the view counts. I've removed a lot of videos, so you're getting kind of a skewed view there. But it's really been satisfying to me to just sort of run my own show, and maybe that's the point. everybody eventually graduates to, I don't know. Where's Missy Jen? You can't tell me that she's not turned off about the whole Elvis coming to the Rancho thing. I guess so. Missy Jen, it's the hood. Missy Jen is a very tolerant person. She has an extremely kind heart, okay? And as far as being around, she has her own things that she's getting organized. Her interests are in the farming community, the agricultural, the tractor community. She does not derive the pleasure that she used to have. She never really was much for Hangouts. She really did it as a courtesy for me. And, you know, as far as the mornings and coffee times, I'll often tell, you know, Jen, do you feel like being on today? And, you know, she's got to get up, get makeup on and all that. And these days I'm happier and she's happier to just be able to do her thing in the morning and enjoy her morning activities and be sort of a lower level and do her own thing, to take things down to a lower level and do her own thing on the things on the occasional videos that she does. But you should not derive, nor should you conclude anything from her not being the daily presence that she was for years here on the channel. Things change. Okay, have you ever had confrontations with people while live streaming? I've had negative confrontations before. You know, my most recent really negative one was in Lexington Market in Baltimore, where I was videoing. Lexington Market is the oldest indoor market in the United States, tracing back to the 1700s. It's a very colorful place, seafood, you know, just a huge market. And it just happens to be in a really terrible neighborhood, okay, of Baltimore. And it attracts a lot of homeless people, a lot of street people, a lot of people that are obviously on drugs, and just, and I hate to say it, hoodlums too. And it's the kind of community, when you go in there on a 100-degree day in the inner city of Baltimore, and it's 100%, you know, 80% humidity or whatever, people are going to be touchy. And I ran across a gal that really started going off about being on camera and things, although I was just doing a walking by shot and did nothing to focus. But this passed, okay? Yes, I've had people in the streets screaming, smash that camera, why'd that girl still have her mofo camera, and things like that. It's just a fact of life. If you're going to be a street streamer, you're going to run into all kinds of people. Remember, it's perfectly legal to stream in public places, public streets. And if people are out on the streets and within my video camera, that's not really my, I don't want to say problem, but it's not something that's going to be of great concern to me, because as I've discovered in most of my travels and things, that most of the people that you see on the street that you perceive to be homeless and destitute are really people that have a place to live, and they're people that just want to be out there, or they're people that are somewhat out of their mind because of drugs and other things. But does that mean that I'm supposed to cordon off part of a city and just treat it like it's some kind of quarantine zone that I'm not allowed to go into? I say nuts to that. If it's on the street and I judge it to be interesting content, I grab it, okay? Is Elvis killing your channel? I'm guessing so. Elvis has never had any impact on my channel. You might have a few people that unsub here and there, but the nature of YouTube is that there are always new people coming into the channel, and in my channel in particular, because it's so multifaceted. Vintage audio, baking things, projects here on the rancho, travels and adventures, food reviews, moonshining. There's so many gateways into my channel that one person's not able to even affect the channel except for me, okay? That's not to say I don't appreciate people, because I love having people sub to my channel and interacting with me. But as far as killing the channel, the numbers tell an entirely different story, especially over the course of the summer. And of course, travel will always boost you up, and making content will always get your numbers ramping up and things. But like I say, I'm not a person particularly stays awake at night, does videos crowing about my numbers and talking about you know, how great I am and stuff. I'm here to have fun and enjoy my golden years on YouTube. So as far as killing a channel, far from it. Let's see. Would you consider dating a woman? If so, I would be interested in hooking up. Ooh la la. I've dated men and many women and many men over the years. I just find as I'm kind of getting older here, I love the men, but women seem to have somewhat of a deeper ability to connect with me, and I like that. I like that a lot. You know, I try to be friendly to everybody, but my inclination is to meet nice gals, and if a hookup happens on the road, that's cool, you know. Last question. You know, I do a lot of cinematic videos. Niagara Falls is sort of a keystone. It's probably the pinnacle of the ones I've been able to put together. But I've done, you know, Lakeshore Drive in Chicago. I've done Chicago by Night, Toronto, a cinematic. You know, I love to do these little things. The Pabst Mansion in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. This person asked, will you please do a hangout dedicated to making cinematic videos? Well, I don't think I'm going to do, I have a few of them on my channel. I have a few videos where I discuss what it entails to make a cinematic video. I may attempt it as a content piece just to see how many people are really interested, because the power that's packed into cell phones and cell phone cameras today is amazing. This Samsung Galaxy S10 Plus that I'm recording on has 5 lenses, 5, and it also has excellent night vision to it too. Look, you're either a videographer or you're not, okay? And in my community, I don't think a lot of people were that interested in it. I've found that most of my comments on cinematic videos come from people that do other cinematic videos, be they in the photography community, the professional camera community, and their critique is very, you know, it's very welcome in those cases. So yeah, I might do that one time. That might not be a bad idea. Tackle off, you know, cell phone cinematography and see what happens, because believe it or not, on YouTube, those are the things that people watch year in, year out, year. They continue to attract people. Anyway, that's going to do it for part 1 of the mail call. I've only got one part 2. I could have probably done about 50 parts covering the last 2.5 months or so, but I'm just going to hit the high points and the questions and comments that people talk about a lot. I will see you on part 2, and then on the McNamara channel, we'll be having a little more of the frisky questions that I get asked. All right, thanks so much for being along, everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day, and thumbs up are appreciated. Ooh.